We are live from London in the Gfinity Arena for the Hearthstone Summer Masters. What an amazing tournament we're having so far. I'm your host, Callum Leslie, of course, and joining me on the desk this time, no Lothar, he is reformed into Raven. Who is
do I have to be mean now? Is that what I've got to do? Okay,
that is the mean chair.
I'll do my best.
That's why Richard Lewis sits in that chair, and now Lothar sits in that chair. It's the mean chair. I don't know what that chair is yet, Caldi, but you've joined us as well from casting the last game. We're going to have our Group B winners match now. It's going to be Hawkeye versus NickChipper. Hawkeye, the overwhelming favorite from us to win the tournament. Some people are picking Tom, who of course has won his group now as well. But I think I don't know if you've picked Hawkeye.
Yeah, I picked Hawkeye.
Did you
Hawkeye,
pick? See, we all picked Hawkeye. So
we know.
this is the guy who's going to win this game. But obviously, we have NickChipper coming up as well, who's a very interesting young player from Ukraine. We didn't get a chance to see him in these matches, but obviously, Raven, tell us a little bit about why Hawkeye is such a favorite. You can see the bracket here. This is the winners match, and the loser will face Legend Darren in the losers match. But talk to us a little bit about Hawkeye, Raven, why he's such a favorite.
Yeah, so anyone who's been following Hearthstone, you look at some of the tournaments, like the main ones, the China versus EU tournaments he's played in, and just consistent performances as well. And it's interesting that he's not brought Shaman, which is what he's probably known for.
He's been trying to make that work for so long.
Yeah, it's just strange that like a deck that he's like, maybe that's why he didn't bring it, just because he's so known for it. Maybe he thought it was too obvious.
Or maybe just because Shaman doesn't work.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to say that to him. I'm not going to say that to him. But yeah, just overall strong performance. I mean, when we saw in the game of Hawkeye versus Deathlore, that both players played extremely well, but Hawkeye managed to take the win there. So just overall strong performance. Yeah,
I mean, he's already eliminated one of probably the other strongest players in the tournament, sent Deathlore on his way. Of course, Deathlore now out of this group. But we can see the classes on screen there. So we've seen Hawkeyes before. We know he's playing Mage and Paladin a little bit unorthodox, perhaps, and playing that Warlock as well, which I think is the Malagos lock from Hawkeye, right? Or was he playing the Zoo? He was playing the Malagos, I think.
Malagos lock, yeah.
And we see from NickChipper, what we've said is the three strongest classes: the Hunter, the Warlock, and the Warrior. Caldi, what do you think about those three strong classes? And is that a strong lineup to play? Obviously, it's a strong lineup because it is the three strongest decks, but a lot of people may be deviating from that to try and mix up their strategy a little bit. What are your thoughts?
I actually think all 9 classes are viable now in this format, and I think the main thing that separates those 3 that are brought most often to open tournaments is the consistency of it. You have the Warlock with the live tap for the draw. We have the Warrior with the endless draw from the patrons, and and then you have the Hunter, which is always good. You just use the hero power, So it's kind of more consistent, I'd say, these 3 classes. But all the other have their place as well. So if you don't know what you're going to face, you just go with really consistent stuff, and that's going to be Warrior, Warlock, and Hunter.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you bring Priest and Shaman to a future tournament, Caldi. We'll wait for that with bated breath.
KPL, man, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, Hawkeye's got to be the favorite going into this. What do you think NickChipper has to do to try and take this game?
Yeah, I mean, although NickChipper's not the most famous of player or anything like that, and I'd have to agree, Hawkeye's the favorite. He's not one to be messed with either. I mean, he has a pretty consistent high ladder placings, and I know a couple of his teammates, and they rate him very well, and obviously he's made it here. So I think, and what Caldi touched on with just the strong decks and consistency, and I think if he just gets his head down and just takes away who he's playing, maybe he's a bit nervous because Hawkeye is the favorite. If he just forgets about all that and just tries to play just a good game as well as he can, the consistency of the class choice and maybe the deck choice might just come through for him.
And of course, these players are only 1 game away from the playoffs, 1 match win away, 1 match away from the money as well. One of the things I love as well about this tournament is they can see the trophy out of the corner of their booth, so they know what they're playing for. Quick predictions from you both. Who do you think is going to take this?
I think NickChipper.
You're going to go for NickChipper?
I'm going to go against my own prediction.
Caldi, what are you going to go for?
NickChipper as well. I think the lineup up better for him. Yeah.
Both analysts up here going for the underdog. So let's take it down to our casters and see what they think. Nimsh and Sol, take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Callum. And we are here with our predictions. I want to hear it first.
Oh, you're going to put me straight into the firing line. I picked Tom, in fact, to win this tournament. Hawkeye was probably my second favorite, but haven't yet seen Nick play. But his results have been really impressive, and I know that he's definitely on a hot streak at the moment, having held rank 1 legend recently. So yeah, I'm willing to put my neck on the line as well and say that NickChipper might just win this game.
All right, I feel like it's an easy win for me, even though I do appreciate the fact that Nick is a great player. I'm going to put my money on Hawkeye in this match, and we can already see that the players selected their first class. This is Warlock versus Hunter. So we know this is the Malygos Warlock from Hawkeye for Nick. It's is it a mid-range?
I believe that it's Hybrid Hunter. I did speak with Nick earlier, managed to have a private conversation with him, so he was willing to reveal more information than he normally would with other players around, and he did tell me that he was playing Hybrid Hunter. So
isn't it illegal? Just getting the information from those players?
As a caster, no, of course not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crossing the line there, maybe?
Right. I have no bias in this tournament. There's no H2K players here or anything, so yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our favorites, and I actually go into the game.
Straight into the game.
That was pretty fast.
So yeah, we do see the aggressive cards, Knife Juggler and such from NickChipper, but also the lower third, which is in line with a hybrid build. It definitely could still be mid-range. We see no cards like Wolf Rider or Arcane Golem to really tip us over, but still going on the information that I have that this is a hybrid deck.
All right, and from Hawkeye, there's a Malygos deck. We don't know his hand just yet, but what do you think about this matchup overall? Who has an advantage?
I think the various Hunter decks all have kind of different matchups against Malygos Warlock, kind of similarly that they do against Handlock. I think actually pure mid-range is the most favored matchup against Malygos. But Hybrid and Face Hunter both do really well as well, just because of the lack of Molten Giants means that it's so hard for Malygos Warlock to get that big swingy turn where they both protect themselves, they heal, but at the same time they drop that enormous 8/8 threat that Handlock does, but Malygos doesn't really have that option.
Yeah.
They kind of rely on leveraging the mid-game tempo with cards like Blackwing Corruptor.
Also a great thing for Hunter is that there are no Molten Giants, so you don't have to really stop dealing damage. You can go all in.
Yeah, you can just go all in all the time, yeah.
All right, so looking at those hands, it's a pretty good start for NickChipper. For Hawkeye, though, well, Zombie Chow and Mortal Coil are the cards you're looking for. Iron Begal can be great versus Mad Scientist, so it's not terrible. An interesting card he's running. He's running Siphon, so it's not common in Malygos decks.
It's interesting. I was on the analyst desk for his last set, and we noticed that he's running both Earthen Ring, Farseer, and Siphon Soul. Both 2 extra. There you go. They see the Earthen Ring come into his hand. So 2 extra defensive cards. So we kind of theorize that he's probably cut a defensive card to make room for it. Maybe a Defender of Argus, something like that. Yeah, interesting to see exactly what his build is.
What do you think about Nick playing the Juggler into Zombie Chow instead of having a Mad Scientist?
I think it's fine. I think Zombie Chow is such a powerful turn 1 card that when it happens, you kind of just have to suck it up and accept the fact that a bad trade is going to happen for you. So I think the Knife Juggler's fine there, because now he just gets unanswered Mad Scientist on the board and he's in a decent spot. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. So now for Hawkeye, silence seems obvious, but you want to think what you really want to do. If there's a Farseer, though, he will face a secret. If that's a freezing trap, then Farseer actually will get a lot of value there.
Yeah, I don't hate this. There's a good chance that he chooses not to trade the Mad Scientist this turn, so he can just be more mana efficient with the Owl next turn and fit in a tap as well, and silence the Scientist. The one thing this does expose you to is Animal Companion on curve into Leok, where Leok is actually the best outcome in this situation, strangely enough. Usually the much maligned Animal Companion Leok, in this situation it would have been fantastic, but Misha, absolutely not too bad either.
Yeah, on the other hand, Hawkeye will have the Mortal Coil, so he'll be able to attack into the Misha and sack it. The question is, do you attack into the 3/3? We don't know what traps is NickChipper running, but if he has a Snake Trap, it might make sense to attack into Farseer, but on the other hand,
that would expose him to like a Hellfire or something, though. If he made that play,
it would. And Freezing Trap is not that great in that situation. If you get a second Freezing Trap from this.
It depends. Like, Farseer is a nice card in a way for Hawkeye to get back to his hand with a Freezing Trap, but getting the Freezing Trap, and it is a Freezing Trap, does protect his Misha from Mortal Coil, and lets him start building the board. Like, if this 4/4 sticks on the board for a turn and he's then able to add Shredder the next turn, he's really starting to like spiral his board advantage and put a lot of pressure. So yeah, I absolutely don't hate that play of trading in the Scientist at all.
Yeah, that's a really good call actually. And Malygos Warlock doesn't have that many AoE cards. Normally it runs 2.
Yeah, a single copy of both Shadowflame and Hellfire usually.
That's true.
Yep.
Okay, so back to Hawkeye. He's staring at that Misha, no longer able to really remove it. Soulfire is not an option unless he doesn't have that many quality cards in his hand.
Right. Actually, again, this is a matchup. This is kind of a survival matchup. In the last series when I was casting with Cowdy, we disagreed with many of the plays in the Malagos Warlocks where they were just throwing away Soulfires to try and get onto the board. But I think this is a different matchup. I think this is definitely a matchup that's kind of survive by all costs and get to the late game. So I kind of like the Soulfire there just to get himself, give himself a decent chance of getting onto the board this turn with something like a Sludge Belcher if he drew it.
Yeah. Also because, as I mentioned, he didn't have any quality cards, no combo cards in hand, so whatever is being discarded is still fine.
Obviously, it would have been sad to see the Emperor go, but that was about it.
Oh man, Lothab on turn 5, Lothab on curve. But is Lothab at play though? Like, you might want to protect your 4-freeze Blighted Traitor here.
I think it's fine. Like Lothab on curve here, if he trades the Farseer into the 4-3, your board is going to be 5-5 and a random 2-drop. Which is going to be plenty to challenge a potential Emperor on turn 6 and still be ahead of the board afterwards. Like, he could just straight up trade Lothab in, play high main, still be really far ahead in the game. So this is the aggressive play. It's the play that gives him the strongest board. So I think it's right. And
it protects him from Siphon Soul on 6.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. On curve Siphon Soul. And yeah, it looks like that's exactly what we're going to see. And NickChipper, there is an option. What do you think about quick shotting just to keep the repetitive value out of the Lothab?
I think you trade Lothab into the 5-5 and we play high main.
Yeah, I mean, that's the play that jumps out at me as well. I'm just thinking, like, is connecting to the face for 5 with that Lothab this turn worth quick shotting? I'm not sure.
Not really, I think. High main is so strong and you have to kill the person in case of Shadow Flame.
Yep. Absolutely, and NickChipper seems to agree. So now...
There's Malagos. The problem for Hawkeye is that he used Thorison to enable a bit of a better place next turn, a couple of turns, but he didn't hit any combo cards. So now Malagos Soulfire might still work, but there's no way for like a big burst turn where he can steal the win. Like he needs to use all the protective cards to stay alive, and then try to win from there. Yeah,
it was more of a tempo Thorison, if you like, where his hand was starting to get a little bit expensive, so he's investing that one slow turn into playing the 6-mana 5/5 in order to speed up his following turns and hopefully get onto the board against the Hunter. He does have some options here. There's no real efficient way to deal with the high main unless you want to just Owl Siphon Soul it.
I think that's a great way to deal with it.
Yeah, the only problem is that just you kind of don't get onto the board with it. You get onto the board with an Owl, but it's okay. I mean,
it does contest the board.
Right? Yeah, that's entirely true. And anytime you're able to deal with a high main entirely the turn it's played, I guess you have to be pretty happy with that, right?
Yeah. I think that was a right play. And what's the bigger target you can get for Siphon Soul?
Sure. Like even taking the 7/7 body of Boom is probably lower value than that because the Boom bots remain afterwards.
Yeah, that's true.
And we do see NickChipper's hand just starting to run out of steam now. He's kind of dropped a couple of his big bombs with the Lothab and the high main, and he's now down to the early game cards, the Hornet Creepers, 2-drop that he's got off Shredder. And not a lot of value sitting in his hand either. And this could be the turn where we really start to see Hawkeye power back onto the board and start to spiral an advantage with all those discounted Emperor cards in his hand.
Yeah, I really like the playstyle from Hawkeye. He did the same thing versus Deathlord earlier, basically just suffocating the Hunter and dealing with all the options. And at some point he's just going to win. He has so much removal, draw, and taunts at this point. Like Malagos is... doesn't matter even.
It's Malagos Warlock is such a unique deck because it's a deck obviously that's built with this win condition in mind with the Malagos combo. But I don't know if you've had much experience with the deck, but in my experience you probably win something like 25 to 30% of the games through that method. A lot of the time you just win through board dominance just because your minions are so efficient.
Yeah, I do actually play a lot of this deck, and one of the first things I explain to people who want to learn the deck is that don't focus on Malagos, just focus on the minions you have. Because those minions have an amazing quality, and you can just use them to trade, to deal damage, and you don't even need Malagos to finish with the burst spells.
And I think NickChipper has decided that Face is the place at this point, and his only win condition is just going to be outright rushdown. He's not gonna gain any value back on the board now with 2 Hornet Creepers up against an Azure Drake and an Imp Gang boss. So he's just retaining the burst that he has in hand. He's looking to get an extra bow charge with that freezing trap, and he's going to hope that he has enough damage left in his deck to just push for the win.
Well, he does have an amazing amount of damage in his hand right now.
Yes, he does. But on the flip side of that, we see double heal bot in Hawkeye's hand, which he could have just played that turn if he'd have felt like it, just gone straight back up to 30, but it would have been inefficient. Lepanome not quite going to cut it in this situation.
Ugh, such an amazing card in such a bad spot.
You're always sad when a Lepanome isn't effective.
Yeah, well, it's going to deal 2 points of damage. There's no silence, but Hawkeye is an amazing spot. He just even prepares to use the freezing trap to his advantage and attack, maybe with a heal bot or Defender Vargas, whatever he thinks is better, a taunt or a heal.
So he's forced to use his burn here just to clear the taunts. Which, oh wow, okay. Just draws into the second kill command, but again, he has to start from 26 here with basically no board. You know, he has a board that's going to have, what, 6 power on it after this?
Yeah, it looks really bad. Like, I don't know if you just not concede here, because you use so much burst, and you know this deck has still like taunts and heal.
Especially since Nick has been concealed from stream so far today, so there's a good chance that none of the players have any information on his decks. So conceding here and just exactly not revealing what type of hunter this is, because we still have not seen any Wolf Riders, Arcane Golems. So this could just be mid-range with Lepanomes at this point for all anyone knows.
Well, now after revealing the Lepanome, it gives Hawkeye some idea at least.
Right, but still, like, you know, Lepanome does not necessarily rule out mid-range. There is people just play mid-range with Lepanomes instead of web spinners. It happens.
That's true. That's true.
If they play like the 2 Shredder 1 Houndmaster build, then the web spinners don't represent as much value.
It does point to the hybrid deck.
Yes, it definitely does lean that way. You would get that read for sure. So he's going to bounce the Argus, give himself some more options for taunting later. He's going to choose to just pick up the damage now from the Lepanome. It's the highest power creature on board he can trade with, so it's probably the correct decision. And sees no reason to heal this turn, just develops his board with the strongest minions that he can.
It's actually interesting that he is not able to play Implosion. Playing around Unleash the Hounds at this point makes a lot of sense, because he also doesn't have an AoE. There is Dr. Boom though.
Right, if there was a card from his deck that might give him a chance of winning this game, that might just be it. It's the 7. There's no way the 7 is going to connect to face, because worst case scenario, he knows that it's just going to be traded down on board unless he chooses to kill command one of the minions. But
he gets the bombs, and for now, Hawkeye doesn't have like a BGH, so he will have to trade those minions in.
But yeah, what do you think about maybe just Dr. Boom, kill command the 5/4, trade 1 guy in, and just hope that 7/7 can carry you? Like maybe it's your last shot at this game that he misses his big game hunter completely.
You might use it as a removal, but then you want to go in with damage. You killed one. You've seen one heal bot. You've seen one Farseer. You hope the second heal bot is nowhere to be found. Do you play Malygos, by the way? Is this the moment where you can actually attack with Gang Boss and maybe Malygos Mortal Coil? It might not be.
I'm not sure.
But then you can maybe Defender Vargas Malygos next turn.
Right. I think I'd just like Argus Mortal Coil maybe. No, he is going to go with the Malygos play. Interesting.
Like, it's giving him a card. And you still get a minion.
It's interesting because the most defensive play he can make this turn is definitely anti-Killbot. I think that's the play that kind of removes any outs that NickChipper might have. But he might just be afraid of just falling too far behind on the board if he makes that play, maybe to just a second Savannah High main top deck or something.
It's actually amazing how annoying Dr. Boom is here. Oh, he gets a 4.
He gets a 4, that's huge. He's going to use the Mortal Coil here. And look to draw into probably a Sludge Belcher is his best draw here. And there it is. Wow.
Yeah, that was one amazing situation there. And now he has that heal bot and Defender Vargas. But he will not even need it. There is a Eagle Hornbow. No Beast though. So Kill Command still dealing only 3 points of damage. So from NickChipper's position, he has to assume there is no more heal in the deck. He's still at 25, so he thinks maybe he has like 2 more turns.
It's an important strategic point for like players who are really trying to step to the next level in this game. There is no way that NickChipper beats second anti-Killbot this game. So from NickChipper's perspective, that card doesn't exist. Because there's no way he can beat it. So he has to work out what is my best play, assuming that he has no more healing left in his deck.
Unless, actually, Hawkeye overextends the board, gets 7 minions, and then Unleash
Kill Command happens, yeah. I guess that's a possibility, but I would suspect a player of Hawkeye's quality not to present that option as an out. I would expect these 1/1s to be traded off as soon as he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, here you do play the bow, kill the Belcher with the bow and the 1/1s, and then attack with the bomb last, so that you have 1 less minion that you can hit.
Absolutely.
You want to hit face 4 to the face. That's your aim.
Yep.
And he makes it!
Yeah. All right.
Oh my
we
God.
actually just got a real match because none of these imps can be traded off this turn.
Yeah.
He can play Argus and Healbot this turn, but still, that would be 7 minions on the board. So 4 damage from the dogs would have to be used to clear the taunts. So we would have 3 left, 3 from the bow, that's 8, and then kill command for 13. So he would not quite be there with an unleashed top
Still,
deck.
NickChipper is a hunter god.
Right. Yeah, as I've mentioned several times, he has recently been rank 1 legend, and I spoke to him earlier, and he was in fact playing Hunter to achieve that ranking. So definitely very, very comfortable with the deck. So I'm sure he's well aware of what his outs are now within his deck and what exactly he might need to win this game.
Well, from his perspective right now, he just wants the beast and no taunt from Hawkeye. But we know that Hawkeye not only has a taunt, he also has a heal.
Right. Well, NickChipper also knows that he has a taunt, right? Because he knows he has the frozen Defender of Argus in his hand. So.
All right.
Do you see any play here that is not anti-Killbot Defender of Argus?
I think, well, okay, so with anti-Killbot you go up to 17, so you might not need to play Argus, but because you have mana to play Argus, setting up those big taunts makes a lot of sense.
And I like this play just to taunt up the 2 biggest guys. Just again, like it would take an entire unleash plus 1 extra damage just to bust through the taunts at this point. So.
Plus he also set up lethal for next turn. There is a high min draw. Not really helping.
Not going to be good enough, and we are just going to see a concede from NickChipper. Really well played first game from Hawkeye, I think.
Oh, definitely. From both players, actually.
Oh, sure, yeah. NickChipper did nothing wrong there. It's just there was the key turn, I think, was the Emperor play on turn 6. Like I said, it was just a tempo Thaurissan where he invested the 1 slow turn. He knew he was going to be behind for that 1 turn after he played the Emperor, but he knew that the mana discount would give him enough to catch up and dominate the board.
That's what I love about this deck. Like, you can be so flexible with your plays. You want, in theory, you want all the combo pieces and Thaurissan to make them cheaper, but you can play tempo Thaurissan, as we've seen, which actually wins you the game as well. So much heal, so much taunt, and with that Defender of Argus, he was able even to deal more damage and to set up lethal for next turn, because that is a +2/+2 when you play it.
Right, yeah, of course. Defender of Argus generally viewed as a defensive card because it does give taunt, but you know there's a reason Zoo plays it, for example, and that's not to be defensive. It's to create pressure when you're ahead on the board. Yeah,
and to be able to just attack and don't really worry about your health pool at the moment. All right, so Hawkeye locks his Mali lock.
Yes.
What is he going to pick next? He has still Paladin and his Flamewaker Mage. And for NickChipper, for now, he knows that there is a Hybrid Hunter. It seems like a Hybrid Hunter.
Yeah, I think you would have the read that it was a Hybrid Hunter just from seeing the Leper Gnomes, as you say. So yeah,
that's true. So what do you take?
It's difficult because I don't know whether he's had someone scouting NickChipper on his games in the second stage, or whether the players are even allowed in there at this point. Because I know it's completely closed off at this event, which is different.
It is open for players.
It's open for players.
We did call it a second players lounge if they want to hang out there.
So I don't know whether he's been in there scouting or whether he's had someone scouting on him by his behalf. With full information, I think I would favor the Tempo Mage here. It's because Tempo Mage has a chance to just outpace Patron, just go in nice and quick. I think Tempo Mage is quite heavily favored against Hybrid Hunter, and against Handlock, you always have the opportunity just timely fireball top deck. It's enough damage. You push through. You manage to massage them to the perfect Molten Giants area.
Absolutely true.
Yeah,
and he does in fact pick the Flamewaker Mage.
Mage. Fantastic. So we're going to see Mage, and Nick is just sticking with his Hunter. Like you said, he is thinks of himself as a Hunter player, a very accomplished Hunter player, so no big surprise that he's going to stick with it here and stick to his guns.
But he did mention that Flamewaker actually has a good matchup. What do you think is that?
Especially against slower decks, I think there is a chance that Face Hunter just gets too powerful a damage draw. And just there is no healing. There's not that much defense in the Flamewaker Mage. There's kind of Mirror Image, and that's it. But Mirror Image can just play into Unleash the Hound sometimes.
Wait, so you're saying that the mid-range Hunter has a good matchup versus the Flamewaker?
No, I'm saying that Flamewaker has a good matchup against the mid-range Hunter. I think Face Hunter is the best Hunter deck against Flamewaker Mage.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard this is the worst matchup, because with the Face Hunter, you basically can't go through the images, and your board gets destroyed by the Flamewakers and such.
Okay.
It might be a 50-50.
I think mirror images in general are just too vulnerable to explosive trap, and they can also be leveraged with Unleash the Hounds, especially if you get Leok with it.
Yeah. That's from my experience as well.
If you have explosive trap up against a mirror image, there's an option to just not attack, but in that scenario, you need a Flame Waker on the board so that you're still dealing damage while not attacking. And all that lining up is kind of rare, I think, for the mage, which is why I kind of think Hunter's favored. But for me, the slower the Hunter deck, the more of an advantage the mage deck has.
Yeah, because you basically set up the board early and you have tempo advantage, and as a tempo mage, you go into those fireballs. And
yeah, it's the same reason that mid-range Hunter loses to face Hunter, for example. Like the mage is just playing the face Hunter role in this matchup. They have to be more aggressive. But the interesting thing to note is that Hawkeye's build is actually quite slow.
With Ragnaros even.
Yeah, he's playing a Ragnaros, he's playing a Flame Strike, he's playing a Sylvanas. So he's actually got quite lucky here to draw into quite an aggressive draw with both Flame Wakers, decent early spells. And he has answers to pretty much anything that NickChipper might want to play here, except kind of the Haunted Creeper.
Yeah, you said it is pretty slow, but he got a really nice hand. He got the coin and a double Flame Waker, so it's looking good for now. And even getting that portal.
Interesting. He's just going to go for the Mirror Entity, which, again, kind of plays into Hawkeye's perspective on this deck. He is playing quite a slow build of it, and that was quite a slow play on his behalf. He had the option. He has 2 Flame Wakers in his hand, so he had the option to just play a Flame Waker and demand an answer that turn.
Yeah, NickChipper
chose to pass it up.
NickChipper recognizes that this is the mirror entity and just going for the knives. Hits the juggler. It was possible that the juggler would survive here, but he still has the freezing trap set.
Ooh.
Oh man, this is what you want in this deck.
That is. This is starting to get very interesting. He doesn't have any 1-mana spells in his hand, which are the really, really juicy things when you have the Sorcerer's Apprentice Flame Waker combo, because obviously they all just become 0 and you have infinite pings flying around as long as you can cast 1-mana spells.
Are you forced to go into coin Flame Cannon here?
I think, yeah, Flame Waker, coin, Flame Cannon is the play here. You would kind of love to hit these 2/1/1s with the initial shots. That is about as bad as it gets. In fact, I think that is the worst outcome, apart from Two-Face, I guess.
Yeah, now if you hit the Haunted Creeper again, you actually can get knives.
Yep. Unless the... he's going to go Unstable Portal instead of Flame Cannon. Interesting.
All right, is he going to snipe the juggler?
That is his second Sylvanas. Of Unstable Portal with this deck.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Are you sure he's playing Sylvanas in his deck?
Yeah, I saw Sylvanas get burned in the game where he portaled the Fel Reaver. It's one of the cards that got burned off the top.
So unfortunately for him, this is a total miss. And now NickChipper can clear the board easily.
Yep. And Mage would love to top deck and Unleash the Hounds here, but unfortunately not an option for the Mage deck. Not even something that the power of Unstable Portal can achieve.
Do we know if he's playing... oh, he's playing Flame Strike, actually.
He is playing Flame Strike, yes.
This is obviously far away from Flame Strike, and Hawkeye will be forced to ping this juggler. But NickChipper is just building up a big board, and he's in a good spot here.
Interesting. He could take the risk with Flame Waker, Flame Cannon. He's not mandated to ping the juggler. It's definitely the safest thing he can do, but it's a matter of maybe he feels so far behind here that he needs to go for the dream of like Flame Waker, Flame Cannon hits the 4/3 and the pings kill off the juggler.
I like Sylvanas here because you are behind on board, and this might be the NickChipper is like, what? What just happened?
Well,
and he was watching the last game, I believe, so he knows this is a second Sylvanas portal.
He shouldn't be too concerned about it. He does have the Owl in his hand. I don't see any reason why he should be interacting with the Sylvanas either. I just think this all goes to the face, straight to the dome.
Yep. With the freezing trap, he doesn't have to be concerned about it at all. Like even silence, do you really silence it? I guess.
Right. I guess like silence saves you from having to work out what silly stuff he can maybe do with it, with like frostbolting his own Sylvanas, fireballing his own Sylvanas, like. Yeah, he didn't have a much stronger play than that anyway. His hand is Quick Shot, Unleash the Hounds. So, just developing the 2/1 on the board, getting some utility out of it. It seems fine.
All right, so Hawkeye is going through the motions, but we know that he is dead from this situation. There's too much damage incoming.
Well,
he will not be able to activate it.
Lightwell is start of turn. Yeah, unfortunately, Vitality Totem was the one that he needed there.
This is much more damage than he needs.
Yep. And that is NickChipper tying the game up with a very, very quick game too. And we are back to 1-1.
Yeah, he is a Hunter Master, so pretty well played by both players. And in the end, Hunter takes it. So you said, like, because we started arguing about it, you said Hunter is going to take it, right? Or did you say that Flame Waker?
I said the mage was favored.
Okay,
yeah.
The mage is favored. This is, I think this matchup is like much more even than we thought. It really depends on openings.
I don't think it's a huge advantage either way. But obviously, it's easy to like back myself out of the corner now. It's like, no, I didn't say it was that good.
I never said that.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't recorded.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge advantage. I do feel like the mage is slightly favored. I think mid-range Hunter is favored, but against hybrid, I think mage has a slight advantage. But yeah, we just saw a very nice, strong curve, early curve. 2 Haunted Creepers that are really hard to deal with for mage, especially.
Terrible hits with a Flame Waker.
Right. And Hawkeye's hand was double Flame Cannon as well, which is just, you know, you'd rather your opponent is playing Knife Jugglers, Animal Companions. When they play Haunted Creeper, you're just like, oh,
so like the hand wasn't
my cards
bad,
don't do anything.
It didn't combo out well.
Right.
Like,
the cards just didn't line up in Hawkeye's favor. Yeah.
Like if you would get like mirror images with those cards, maybe that would be much better.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So we have a 1-1, and for Hawkeye, is he going to continue with the Flame Waker? I guess there's no reason to change the deck now. If he picked the Flame Waker, unless he's actually rolling the die, which is possible. Like some players, they do have a die in their roll. They want to randomize because they don't want their opponent to mind game them and pick up a good matchup. Right.
Yeah. The idea is it's something that people say like, oh, literally just roll a dice. That's the way to conquest. And that's not saying, oh, there's no strategy to conquest. Like just pick at random. It's literally, I'm going to remove the option for my opponent to read me by being random, and that's the advantage that I'm going to get in the strategy.
Right.
So we do see Tempo Mage requeued, and we see Warlock queued up by NickChipper, and if my information is correct, this is going to be our first actual pure old-fashioned handlock
but
of the day.
Is it Ragnar's handlock or Jaraxxu's handlock?
I am not aware of any specific tech cards. I only heard handlock. So, and there we go. There is a Molten Giant. So straight away, we're pretty confident this is handlock and not Malagos.
Okay, so Flame Waker versus handlock means that Hawkeye will play kind of like a YOLO game, right? So he needs to deal as much damage as possible early and then follow up with fireballs.
Sometimes the board does just line up nicely where you can, you know, maybe leave them at 15 going into their turn 6. So they could play a 5-mana Molten Giant if they want, but they couldn't taunt it. And then you have enough damage on the board where it's just lethal with a fireball. Yeah. And sometimes it all lines up perfectly like that, but most of the time it's about Mage picking the right turn to go all in.
Is he even playing Mana Worms in this deck?
We haven't seen one. That's really interesting. That's a good question, actually, because as far as I'm aware, this is the 4th game we've seen of this deck, and we have not seen a single Mana Worm drawn.
I haven't seen a single one.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. We have to talk to Hawkeye about this.
Oh, Gazrilla!
That is the dream.
Yeah.
That card is insane.
There is a silence, though, but still.
Right. But the thing is, like, Gazrilla in Mage, you play it on the board, it's not a BGH target.
And then you ping it next turn.
And then you ping it and it does 12 damage. Like,
yeah.
It's so strong.
I had it recently when I was playing versus Patron. I even mentioned it to Kaldi at some point. But there is that silence. So maybe, is there any possibility to bait out silence earlier so that being Hawkeye, you try to play something that's just going to get
jam
silence?
Like empty board Flame Waker and go, oh, silence.
Yeah, exactly. Silence this.
Yeah, fine.
Take it.
Oh, we do see Clockwork Gnome. Interesting. We were debating exactly what sort of cards he would have cut for the extra late game, and Clockwork Gnome was one of the first cards that we were talking about that you'd probably cut. It's interesting that we do see Clockwork Gnome. Maybe this is back to the theory. Maybe the Mana Worms are the... Oh my god.
Well, he will not be able to Frostball it, but...
You are a brave, brave man, NickChipper.
12 points of health.
He's just going to tank 12 to the face right now.
He doesn't even have Molten Giants.
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't have a BGH either, so it's not like this is a bait to say, okay, enrage your Gazrilla, and then I'm going to BGH it next time.
Wait, so he can, in theory, he will be able to silence it and then attack with the Giant and coil it. But you are taking 12 points of damage, so that might be really a brilliant play.
As well, if Hawkeye pings it, then the coil won't be necessary either. It will just be straight up just silence trade. So yeah, maybe that is his plan. I'd be interested if Hawkeye goes with the mirror image here to try and protect it. Of course, we do see the Hellfire in hand that can
You can also just Frostball the Giants.
Yeah, that's a viable play too. I don't mind that.
Might be even better if you play around Hellfire.
I like this, yeah. I like this play a lot. He's going to pass up. This is a very, very high-level exchange from both players.
Just the mind games.
Right. NickChipper passing the opportunity to deal 12 damage over to Hawkeye, and then Hawkeye giving up that opportunity just to try and protect the long-term integrity of his Gazrilla. It's just a really high-level exchange between two very good players.
From Hawkeye's perspective, there can be a BGH.
Yes,
and this can be a setup.
Yeah.
Also, like, just baiting out, yeah, just attack me for 12. I have my Molten Giants, and then what are you going to do after Molten turn?
If someone made that play against me, that would be my read as well, which is just, okay, he wants me to ping my Gazrilla, go face, and then he's just going to BGH my Gazrilla, he's going to have an 8-8 on the board, and I'm going to lose the game. So yeah, I'm a really big fan of both of these plays, actually, as it's panned out. You know, our reaction to the Mountain Giant initially was, whoa, holy crap, but when you sit and think about it, it's actually a really nice play.
All right, so here also what Nick could do is just Hellfire and trade. But he goes with the Iron Begal to play around the entity as well. Yep.
And he'll probably just cycle the coil on that owl. No real reason not to. There is the merit that, you know, that 8 might be going into that 9 at some point, and you want that coil just to do the extra damage. But I think just cycling the coil that turn is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. All right, so back to Hawkeye. He is looking at that Gazrilla being still a great minion. It's a 3rd legendary he got from Portals in this tournament.
Yes. Wow, that's crazy. And like the other minion was a Fel Reaver. It's not like he got Wisp with the other minion.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, there's a lot of options here. We do see Antonidas in the hand for Hawkeye already, which is one of the cards, sorry, that can win tempo major the game long against Handlock if it does stretch out. If he's able to just build up a nice hand of, you know, spare parts and 1-mana spells.
Yeah, and he has the gnome as well, so one spare part is coming for sure.
Yeah, he also has the Sorcerer's Apprentice, so you know he can you know, generate a powerful turn where, you know, he can maybe get 3 mana's worth of discount by playing Sorcerer's Apprentice with an Antonidas in the late game, and use it to actually generate mana that way if he doesn't hit his Thaurissan in time.
Oh man, this is such a difficult turn though for NickChipper. Like normally, if you would not be endangered of dying next turn, you would love to play Thaurissan to enable better plays starting from here.
Right, but you die to Fireball Ping if you make that play, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And looking at 6 cards from Hawkeye, you can't really do it.
No, I agree. I think Siphon Soul on the Gazrilla here just ends up being the play because, well,
you go up, you don't have the Moltens, you don't hurt yourself this way.
Yeah.
And you also get rid of the Taunt token.
Is there another efficient answer to the Gazrilla this turn? Not really. He'd have to... Whoa.
So he values the spell damage more from the Azure Drake.
Interesting.
Oh, there is a Mana Worm.
There is.
He actually
we found it. He is just the unluckiest man on the planet.
Yeah, with this deck at least.
Yeah, four games. Games where you would mulligan for Mana Worm, and he just hasn't hit it at all yet. That's crazy.
But honestly, if I would get those portals,
that's true. Yeah,
I can cut Mana Worms from my deck.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we can quite call him unlucky. That's
also,
a very good point.
Hawkeye said that Defilor cursed him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before they played. So that he said, you are always going to draw Ragnaros in the opening hand.
Excellent. Looks like we're going to see the Arcane Intellect here, just to buff up the Mana Worm, using the Sorcerer's Apprentice just to generate a little bit of tempo. Hellfire does become a bit of a problem, and now we do see the natural Sylvanas, the naturally occurring Sylvanas come into his hand.
That's an actual Sylvanas.
Yeah, as opposed to the slightly overpowered 3-mana one.
Alright, so it looks like NickChipper is actually getting back in this game.
Yeah.
This board looks much more stable for him. It's just open with the Hellfire. Unless, can you actually play Dr. Boom?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Boom right now. Turn 7, Boom's green, 21 health. Let's do it. Let's get Boom on the board.
And you've seen one Frostball as well. So with the Fireball, that would be what, like 13 points of damage?
You know, even if he spends 6 mana next turn, Fireball pinging your 7/7, you still have the Boombots on board, which have a decent chance of clearing the board for you anyway. He doesn't have mana left over to continue developing. I just think there's a ton of upsides to getting Dr. Boom on the board this turn.
What about simply playing Thaurissan? Because you have so many cards, and you have so many quality cards, but they are actually expensive, like Healbot, Defender Vargas.
Right. I think Boom's fine this turn. Boom probably secures you at least a reasonable board position for next turn. Then next turn you can do something like Emperor Dark Bomb.
Yeah.
To protect it even further, and you might even start to get like repetitive value out of your Emperor.
Oh, he taps.
Oh, Nick, no.
Was it the best play?
Right. I mean, I have done that. Oh, you know, on stream before. I consider myself a pretty damn good handlock player. I have, you know, 4 figures worth of wins with the deck, but it's just a horrible feeling when you do it. It's so embarrassing.
Hopefully for him, Lothar is actually on the break.
Yeah. Let's just hope that Lothar missed that one. Yeah, big mistake. Like, he might be the same as me. I count my cards primarily in handlock by how much Mountain Giant costs. So without a Mountain Giant in his hand, he might have just missed it and just forgotten to count. But yeah, I generally just look at my Mountain Giant and say, okay, it costs 3, it costs 4, it costs 5, and I just immediately know how many cards I have. But yeah, like overall, it's just a hard play to excuse. He just, nerves got to him, he tapped with 10 cards. It happens to the best of us. So.
And now he... Oh man. This Sylvanas is also annoying.
Yep.
It's like you're going to lose a Twilight Drake or the 2/3. And as Hawkeye, you might even just open with the Flame Cannon to try to hit the 2/3.
Right. Yeah, so you basically you give yourself 2 50-50s instead of 1, right? You can win the initial 50-50 to guarantee the steal on what would be a 5-6.
Yeah.
And then if you miss, you're then attacking into a 5-7.
It's not terrible.
Right. Yeah, I guess if you hit the Drake with the Flame Cannon, you kind of level the playing field as to which minion you want to steal anyway.
Yeah. You also don't mind losing a spell because you have the Gnome that's going to give you a spare part.
Just for Antonidas purposes. He's going to choose to go with Flame Waker here. Kind of interesting.
He's going with the cannon.
Yep.
And he hits the 2/3.
So he would like both of these to go face. Perfect. All right.
He's definitely much better.
I mean, that looks really, really promising, but he has just opened up Molten Giant Shadow Flame with those attacks hitting face.
He did, but on the other hand, he will get a spare part, and he has Antonidas in his hand.
And we've seen Siphon already, which is basically the only clean answer to Antonidas possible from a handlock, without some sort of board presence to leverage. Otherwise, you'd have to go like Dark Bomb, Hellfire, Mortal Coil to do 7 or something crazy like that.
Right, the Owl is gone as well.
Yep.
And after this, Hawkeye is going to get a secret, because only one mirror entity was triggered, which means that his draw will be actually better. He will not have a chance to draw into the entity.
Sure.
So is there anything else than Molten Giant Shadow Flame?
It's a shame that the Drake is a 5/6. Otherwise, something like Loatheb Shadow Flame actually becomes a possibility because you're going to present an empty board to your opponent no matter what you do with the Shadow Flame. You're going to give them the initiative to go. So doing it with Loatheb shuts down potential hands like, you know, if they have Arcane Intellect or something in their hand because he's running out of steam. But yeah, unfortunately that's kind of one-off because the Drake has that extra point of health. So I do think we just end up with the Molten Giant Shadow Flame here. Hellfire Dark Bomb doesn't quite work either.
Yeah, I can't see anything else. Oh wow. Healbot.
Okay. How much damage is this? 4, 9, 11. Okay, yeah, so he would need an impressive amount of burn in his hand.
He can actually Flame Strike and then Flame Cannon.
Flame Cannon and just push all face.
Clear the board and deal some damage in.
Just looking as well, like trade the Gnome, trade the Scientist, Antonidas Flame Cannon. No, I think this is probably better, yeah.
This is a lot of damage from the spells. You also utilize the spells, and still you do have that Gnome to get Antonidas.
Yep, sure. Yeah, I like this a lot. He just saw 1 Molten, so unless we see the double draw. And again, I think you have to put that down as a punish for not Shadow Flaming last turn. Like he basically put the ball back in Hawkeye's court. Said I'm going to allow you to have an answer to this.
But on the other hand, Flame Strike is actually not that common in the decks.
Right.
He probably knew that Hawkeye is playing one, but normally you don't play around Flame Strike when you play versus Flame.
But he has also just seen cards like Sylvanas, so putting him on maybe a Polymorph or a Flame Strike in his deck is not a particularly huge logical leap. When he's playing slower cards like that, you might assume that there is a card or two. And now we just see, like, it was just clearly a more efficient Shadow Flame the turn before. Now he's just left himself in huge trouble. He's dead to any source of damage.
If that spare power we plus 1 attack, that would be over.
That would be lethal, yeah. I'm perfectly happy with 8 mana Arcane Intellect here, I think.
Exactly.
Alright, he's just going to jam the Antonidas. This is fine too.
It's like he just needs to ping for the win.
It's just 2 pings. It doesn't really matter what you do with the rest of your mana. I guess this presents the most problems. He has to heal and deal with with Antonidas. So, you know, even like I guess this removes Jiraxxus from the equation because he would Jiraxxus and there would still be an Antonidas on the board. So that play makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Like when you play Jiraxxus into that, you're dead anyway. So, all right. Hawkeye takes game number. That was the third game, or was the second one?
That is game 3.
Oh man, it's running. Time is running so fast.
Yep, that is 2-1 to Hawkeye. He just picked up a win with his Tempo Mage, which is noteworthy because we've seen Mage struggle a lot today. All varieties of Mage. We saw, you know, Cal Mage struggle really hard.
Yeah.
He actually lost with it twice more in his unstreamed game as well. So he went 0-5 with that deck today.
Oh man.
Hawkeye definitely struggled with it a little bit against Deathalore.
Well, he's not getting mana worms, so he has to try to get the legendary cards.
The worst thing in Conquest is when you start to get that feeling that you have a weak link in your lineup. That you have a deck that maybe just can't win. So so getting that over and done with is nice, and he can just move on to his last deck, which is Midrange Paladin.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good deck versus Nick's lineup. It should actually work, right?
Yep. Mid Pally decent against Handlock, depends on the amount of equalities that are being played, and not fantastic against Patron, but maybe he gets a nice equality Consecrate clear to line up when he needs it.
All right, so the question is, can Hawkeye win with his Paladin deck, or is Nick going to totally destroy it? We will see after the short break.
Say I spend too much time in the forge. They think it ain't befitting a king. Ah! You don't forge legendary weapons like mine while sitting on a throne. The lands of Cosmodan are mine. And when I bring the pain, lads, it's hammer time!
Hello everyone and welcome back. We've just seen Hawkeye win versus NickChipper. NickChipper. I'm always calling him Nick the Chipper. It's like Nick the Ripper. He is actually, his name is Nick, and he told me that I can just call him Chipper.
Okay.
And I guess it will work, hopefully.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get there. I'm sure his...
We'll get there.
Yeah, Nick the Chipper, whatever, that's fine. We'll go with it.
Okay. He is cheaper. Oh, whatever.
No one's saying Tom62229 every time so far.
60229.
60229,
I actually learned how to say that, but the first time I casted him in Taiwan, that was pretty difficult. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
All right, so down to his Paladin. He needs to win with his Paladin. And he has Blessing of Kings, a pretty nice build. If Nick defeats the Paladin twice, he'll actually go through.
Yes, he has one extremely favoured matchup, which is, assuming he was honest with me in terms of what his decks are, he's playing Patron Warrior as his warrior build. So Patron Warrior against mid-range Paladin is just a miserable matchup for Paladin. They don't have quite enough aggression to put enough pressure on early, and then eventually it just comes to the point where patrons happen, and there's just so many fantastic targets in Paladin decks for patrons to be generated with shielded minibots, the hero power, muster for battle, it just goes on and on and on.
Like even if you go into War of Attrition and both players run out of cards, then the patron will have eventually a War Song and patron. And as a Paladin, you want to use your hero power at some point.
Right. Yeah. And even if you fight off the first initial wave of patrons, you get the Equality Consecrate to line up perfectly, or maybe you're playing some of that Blood Mage tech for patrons. You then still have to deal with the fact that they still have Frothing Berserkers in their deck, and they still kill you. And Paladin is a class that, you know, it can pack a lot of healing, but it can't go above 30.
That's definitely true. And he actually picks the Warrior here.
Mm-hmm.
But even ignoring the Warrior for now, I feel like Handlock versus Paladin is still a good matchup for Handlock.
Yeah, I think Handlock is favored, especially if it's playing Jiraxxus. I think mid-range Paladin definitely has a good chance to just curve out with Minibot into Muster and go from there.
It's like a weird matchup because, like, looking at it from theoretical perspective, there is Aldor Peacekeeper for the Giants. There is equality. So Paladin has a lot of stuff to deal with the Giants and what Handlock is doing.
And they play an Owl, they play a BGH. You know, there's all these really great answers. But what it comes down to in the end is just Paladin just doesn't have the teeth to like put Handlock under pressure. You know? Handlock can make plays where they're on the board. You know, say a Paladin, you need 6 damage. I bet you can't do it. And most of the time they're right. Paladin can't. So we are going to see mid-range Paladin queued up into Patron Warrior here, which, as we have talked about, is a hugely favored matchup for the Patron Warrior. Oh, though we do see a piloted Sky Golems. This might actually be a more controlling build than we first gave it credit for. Ragnarok's coming into the hand as well.
But this
interesting.
It's actually even worse versus Patron, right?
Right. It's still definitely not great, but yeah, this is more of a sort of life coach style Paladin build, I guess you're looking at right now. But I guess on the plus side, that might mean it runs double equality, which is definitely a tick in the plus column for the matchup against Patrons.
Alright, so the plan for the Paladin will be just to set up whatever they have. Hawkeye is not happy with this hand, I'm sure. Having Juggler is nice, but then he doesn't have a turn free play. A True Silver on 4 is alright, but then missing 5. On NickChipper's side, he doesn't have great hand as well, I believe. There is no Torison and not much draw.
Right, he's not going to feel great about playing Armorsmith into this because, you know, something as simple as a hero power could make him lose his Armorsmith for free, but looks like he's going to go ahead and do that, possibly because it just sets up a nice Ghoul or a nice Whirlwind next turn. Basically what he's hoping for here is that Hawkeye kind of goes crazy with the Muster for battle this turn, and then he has a pretty great answer on the board, but we're not going to see that.
Yeah, Nick is probably happy about the Whirlwind and Ghoul as well, because he is able to answer whatever Hawkeye is going to throw at him, but Hawkeye will give him enough time and will not pressure him that much.
Yeah. I don't, generally in this matchup I'm a little bit hesitant to use a Whirlwind before I've seen Muster, but the fact he has the Whirlwind and the Unstable Ghoul in his hand, I think he's okay just Whirlwinding away this board. But again,
no, you keep it as a combo card. You're not really concerned about 4 points of damage here, and if there's a minion played, you actually go into Battle Rage range.
That's true. He doesn't have Battle Rage in his hand just yet, and I think like at some point this board has to go so he can start playing cards like Gnomish Inventor and actually like start to get onto the board. But I guess as more and more time goes on, if he's just going to keep hero powering, the Whirlwind just gets better and better anyway. But yeah, I don't feel this is necessarily a deck, sorry, a matchup where you have to keep all your burst for combo pieces. Like here, to me, like Acolyte Whirlwind just looks fantastic.
Yeah. Here it looks great, but like last turn, I felt like throwing it away.
Right.
All right. So here, oh, he has Grommash as well. So that's we've seen Grommash before as well, and normally Grommash is not that often picked in the Patron decks, but
yeah, it was definitely a fixture for a while. You know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but it's kind of been circled out for the most part. You know, Western players are generally playing the faster deck that just tops out at Thaurissan and just plays all the cycle. I think, you know, cards like Grommash are more popular on the Asian server still, but it's interesting that, you know, we saw it in Tom, which is no great surprise based on what we've just said, but interesting that NickChipper is choosing to run the Grommash as well.
By the way, I wouldn't hate on Nick's side, I wouldn't hate the Inner Rage and Acolyte as well, to just cycle it out. I feel like this hand is actually terrible, and I would like to draw more cards.
I think this hand is possibly okay, depending on whether or not there is a True Silver in the Paladin's hand. But unfortunately, we do see one, so yeah, I wouldn't have hated the Inner Rage there either. You do expose yourself a little bit for Muster, especially after you've just used a Whirlwind, but not a huge deal.
Okay.
Do you just suck it up and play the Gnomish into the True Silver here?
I'm sure it's fine.
Yep.
You want to get Patron, you want to get Thaurissan. Second War Song, it doesn't do much, unfortunately. He would love to get maybe a second Frothing there.
It's fine. I mean, NickChipper's in a comfortable position. This is one of those matchups where, you know, Patron is such a powerful deck that there are some matchups where you can just say, if you're able to draw your deck, you will win. I think this is definitely one of those matchups, so as long as he's not under any significant pressure and he can keep just drawing cards, then I think he's reasonably happy with his board position.
It's also looks funny because for Hawkeye it's such an easy game. It's like, okay, empty board, I play my Pilot Sky Golem, and then, oh, it's turn 7, Dr. Boom, oh, it's Ragnar's time.
Yeah.
Putting those big threats.
Yeah. This is definitely starting to look like a very... Not a very winnable game, but that's the kind of hand that can definitely do some work against this deck. Like, he has enough threats now to overload the amount of executes in the deck, because obviously they only play 2 removal spells most of the time, unless they've pushed in the shield slams as well. So he has a lot of threats here that demand being executed. With the Sky Golem here, and then the Boom, and then the Ragnaros, and he also has the equality for the emergency reset button if the board does get out of control with Grim Patrons. So this is actually kind of looking okay for Hawkeye, dare I say it.
It's really interesting. Like, this Boom turn will be big because Nick can respond with Frothing maybe. He needs to make his calculation, and...
Would you take that risk, though?
Well, you probably don't have to, but you might, like, if you feel... Because he has Grommash as well, and if Frothing actually hits face, if Frothing is not dead to the Boombots, so how much damage is there? Can you even play all those cards?
You don't have enough mana to execute as well. I assume you're looking at like Warsong, Frothing, Coin, Unstable Ghoul, right?
Yeah, and Inner Rage as well, maybe.
Yeah, but then you don't have enough to execute the Dr. Boom as well, the 7/7.
You don't need to execute it. Like, if you play Warsong, Frothing, Ghoul, and you keep Inner Rage for Grommash next turn. Okay. Basically, you need to deal 16, right? Because
so there would be 8 minions on the board. The Frothing would get buff 2 from the Unstable Ghoul attacking, and then the Whirlwind would hit 7. So the Frothing would attack for 11 plus the Armor Smith, which is 12. It's not quite enough to set up the Grommash for the next turn.
All right, so you probably don't even go for it. But it's interesting considering it, and Nick might have just considered it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know players who would actually go for that play.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily terrible. I personally have played a lot of Patron recently, and I'm very, very greedy with my Frothing Berserkers. Probably slightly too much so if there was a flaw in my play with the deck, but I really, really do. Like, my Frothings hit the board, you are dead. That's basically the rules.
Actually, if NickChipper will be 2-1 versus Hawkeye, it's more possible that he makes that play because he has enough, let's say, wiggle room to make a risky play that will win him the game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In this position, for sure, you don't go for it because you feel like if your Frothing dies, you just lose the match.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, it's worth noting now that 1 Natural Whirlwind has gone and 1 Unstable Ghoul has gone. So we're down to 1 more Whirlwind, 2 Deathbite, and potentially 1 more Unstable Ghoul in terms of Whirlwind effects for dealing massive damage with the charging Frothing. So there might have been an argument just to invest the Frothing there because maybe it's the last time in a while you're going to have the Whirlwind effects line up.
Execute
that
top deck.
Top deck execute though.
Yeah, and with this he will actually take care of all those threats. Like, he can attack the 5/3 if he wants to with the weapon. He can execute attack. And what else do you do? That's the thing.
There really
like,
isn't much to do here, right? Like,
do you go Frothing? Not really.
I don't think so, no. You don't want to expose Grom just because even if they don't have the BGH, they're likely to have like an Aldor. So I think this ends up just being remove his stuff, armor up, and say go.
That's why I felt like this hand is not that great. Because you don't have the burst capability, let's say.
I mean, he did, but the Whirlwind and the Unstable Ghoul have both been used, and now the damage potential is a lot less explosive. So he's going to need to pick up something like a Battle Rage pretty soon just to cycle deeper through his deck.
Oh, he's going for the Frothing.
Yeah, okay, now this really is interesting. Like, I feel like if he was going to invest this Frothing, then last turn was a better turn to try it, even with the risk of the Boombot. This is interesting.
Well, here there is no risk. He still has the Warsong, so it's more about playing Frothing to deal some damage at least.
Right. It's only dealing 5, and you've seen how big this deck is so far. You've seen Sky Golem, Boom, Rag, so you're probably expecting anti-Killbot, maybe a Guardian of Kings, lay on hands. So, you're going to have to deal a lot of damage over the course of this game, probably, and hitting for 5 and maybe just getting your Frothing removed doesn't feel that strong to me.
Yeah, also look at that Inner Rage. If you would actually use it in Acolyte earlier, 1 more card might make a difference. Maybe a Battle Rage, you can actually abuse out and Battle Rage there.
Absolutely. So both executes are gone. We've just seen Tyrion coming into the hand. He's probably just calculating various like combinations of cards of how he can get through Tyrion and exactly how much that frothing can hit him in the face for. It looks like he's decided that some nasty things can potentially happen, and he's just going to deal with this board with equality.
With 4 cards in hand, one being the coin, the nasty thing that can happen is maybe Enrage, Patron, Whirlwind. So you have to take that into account. And with that, I believe, if Tyrion would get removed, that frothing was possibly lethal, but I don't think there was enough cards for that.
And so we see the world's saddest Frothing Berserker this turn.
Yeah.
The mighty 1/1 Frothing Berserker. Whirlwind, unfortunately, not very helpful here since the equality has lowered the Frothing's health to 1. So
well, it's alright, I guess, if he wants to actually clear the board and attack with Grommash.
Right. But, you know, at this point in the game, you're not really in the business of wanting to clear the Paladin's board. This is the situation where you should kind of be happy with letting them build a board, and you should have the burst building up in your hand to punish them for it.
Yeah, basically, you need a patron. But if there is no patron, what do you do? Like, you can... yeah, I guess he's going for Grommash, Whirlwind, Enrage on the 3-2.
Yeah, and just going to push face for 10. I like this play. It's kind of using the resources he has in his hand. It's kind of not pretty, because he does get punished super hard by things like BGH. But it's kind of, it was the play that his hand dictated, so I like that he recognized it and went for it.
It's so funny that he never used that coin.
Yeah, he still has the coin, and he's cycled through like 3 Whirlwind effects in his deck without activating Battle Rage as well, which is a huge reason why you see him in this situation now with just a lonely Warsong Commander sat in his hand.
If he picks up Hearthstone Jones, maybe he will still be able to come back. Well, unless he actually gets an Iron Begal, which nobody plays.
Right.
Maybe NickChipper is the genius!
If he drew Harrison Jones this turn, he'd actually just have no way of killing the Tyrion, though, unfortunately.
Oh man, this is actually sad. Getting Patron at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
armor pass?
I guess, and then Tyrion just kills Grommash, and there is Consecrate, unless he has something close to lethal. 7, 8, 10. Well, not really. Not yet there, but... Well, you can... No, not really. I was thinking like Warsong Patron to get the shield out to kill Tyrion. Because Tyrion... but this is no way he's doing that.
Yeah, that's... You literally... You consign yourself to losing the game slowly if you make that play.
And in theory, you have the dream late game hand against Paladin.
Sure. Yeah. Alright, he chooses to initiate the shield attack on his own terms.
Wait, is this like one off? 7, 8,
10, 12.
Oh, he armor up, so okay.
Yeah, he armored, so yeah. He's fairly safely out of range. Again, this is kind of that situation where it's like, hey, Paladin, are you able to do like 7 or 8 damage? No. I have no burst in my deck. I'm a Paladin.
Well, he has a Tyrion, come on.
Yeah, sure, that's true. There's 15 damage to face hidden inside that Tyrion when it gets popped.
Hawkeye just casually pummeling the face with Tyrion.
Yep.
With the deck that a lot of people thought is actually out of the meta game.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely interesting because we've seen almost an entirely different suite of cards drawn by Hawkeye than in the last Paladin game that we saw. Yeah. The last Paladin game we saw him curve out like Chow, Minibot, Muster, and then Shredders. And he basically just played a standard mid-range Paladin game. And then this game we've seen like the top end of his deck that we didn't know existed with the Dr. Boom, the Ragnaros, the Sky Golem, the Equalities, and all that business. I think this is just a last hurrah here from NickChipper. See what he can draw into. No mana to cast the Battle Rage, so that is just going to be game, and Hawkeye is through.
He is advancing to the top 4, and a lot of people, actually most of us, because we had our picks and the people we thought are going to advance, most of us picked Hawkeye, and I think 2 of us picked Tom 609. So I guess we were right with predictions. Both of the players are actually through. And what a match! Really interesting. And on the other hand, Nick played it really well, even though he did live tap at some point to burn a card and took 2 points damage. Overall, I think he played really well. He is a friend of Nyria from Ukraine, a young guy. You know, he has a lot of potential, and he's not out yet, I believe.
Yeah, that was a winner's side match, so NickChipper still has the opportunity to qualify out of the lower bracket in his group. Definitely not out of the tournament yet. Showed a lot of promise, a lot of strong play that game. Definitely showed himself as one to look out for in the future. And as you say, he has the benefit of training with a really, really strong practice group in Eastern Europe and Ukraine in particular. So would not be surprised to see him go on and continue to make a big splash on the Hearthstone scene from this point forward.
Also a pretty good lineup brought by him as well. But I think our analyst desk is ready, so guys, take it away.
Well, we were born ready, Nims. We're here, of course, to talk about that game. I'm here with Raven and Caldi. We saw Hawkeye winning that series as the favorite, of course. Everyone expected him to advance out of this group as the winner, and he's done that. We've seen it with Tom as well. And it really feels like we could well be on course for a Tom versus Hawkeye final, the two big favorites that we all picked within the six of us. An unfortunate performance, I think, for NickChipper. Probably not the performance he would have wanted. He got a bit emotional there. Raven, how did you read NickChipper's performance?
Yeah, so I think that overall, I think he actually played fairly well. The first game with Malygos versus Hunter was he just didn't draw right. He couldn't get enough aggro, and I think the key point in that game was when the Savannah was silenced and then just killed by Siphon Soul on the turn it was played. Yeah. So the Savannah couldn't get any work done, and if that had survived, then I think that he might have been able to keep tempo and keep pushing for damage. And then we did see maybe a bit of the pressure getting to him in the Warlock game where we all saw the live tap on full cards. So he had to burn one. Then I think he might have done a couple of little things like being a bit more adventurous and like missing the Shadow Flame with the Molten Giant just to clear the board and thinking he was relatively safe just playing the heal bot. Whereas I would have liked to have seen the Shadow Flame on the Molten Giant.
Yeah, that felt to me like a play that you really didn't think about well enough. Playing the heal bot to heal feels good right at that time, but you have to take into account of how much damage you're then going to take versus how much damage you would have saved yourself if you'd cleared the board with the Shadow Flame.
Yeah, I think he had a follow-up the next turn because he would have been on 10 mana for the like Lotheb heal bot as well, so it would have been a really strong following turn. So yeah, I think we all thought Hawkeye was going to get through, and he has. It's no real surprise, but I think overall NickChipper played well. He just maybe just a bit lack of experience and just it got to him a little bit, which is understandable.
Caldi, we've talked about players, maybe not playing up to their strengths, but Hawkeye we have to say, has been the strongest player we've seen so far today.
I think so, yeah. Delathor was a bit similar, I think, but we have to evaluate NickChipper. I mean, he played really well. On minor things happening, but overall, I mean, he didn't get the best draws and the best matchups, but overall, just on his play, I think he was more solid than Tom, honestly. So I think, NickChipper's already beaten Legendary once. I can't see why he couldn't do it again. And if he's going to the top 4, I could see him make the finals, I think.
Yeah, well, exactly. NickChipper is not out of the tournament yet. Let's take a look at the bracket for Group B, and we'll show you what we've got coming up. We're going to see that as it's going to be our last game of the day, so we've got 2 more matches to come. The first one being Unskiller and Don't Stop Me, the losers bracket final of Group A, and that lower bracket final, NickChipper and Legendarian. As you said, NickChipper beat Legendarian in the first match, which perhaps an upset for some people. It depends. It's a very even matchup. I'm really looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I think NickChipper, as long as he can just sort of get over the loss that he faced this time, because other than the slight sort of pressure misplays maybe, that overall he played quite well. So I think if he can just sort of just calm himself again, he knows he's beat this guy before, so why can't you beat him again? He's got to be pretty confident going into that match.
I think an important thing to note is, there are misplays and there are just, misclicks kind of, So let's say, look at the tap. Obviously, he knows if you have 10 cards and you tap, you miss. So it's just more of nerves getting to you.
An error rather than a poor decision.
Yeah, exactly. But when you have, a turn 3 Warsong against, Hunter with no real explanation, that's just such a fundamental thing. So I think, like NickChipper can definitely improve and come into the next series, like more confident and less nervous and absolutely do well. So even going to game 2, I could see him improving a lot, just over the day here. Yeah.
Well, we all picked Hawkeye to win the tournament in the predictions that we made. Alex, have you seen anything from him that would make you feel bad about your prediction, or do you feel pretty confident now, having seen 2 of his games?
No, yeah, I think seeing his games, he's not really done any misplays. He's played probably the most steady out of most of the plays at least I've seen. So yeah, I mean, his lineup's pretty good. The Mage is an interesting choice. But it's working, so why not?
He's definitely brought an unconventional lineup, the Mage and the Paladin, but it worked out for him there, Caldi.
Yeah, I think the lineup is quite mediocre, but it's not something people will counter.
Don't mince your words, Caldi. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mediocre, absolutely. Like, but the thing is, you know, when it comes to Patron, it might get countered. You know, Hunter might get countered, I guess. But his lineup is kind of middle of the way, so it can't get countered. But you know, I feel like if he faces, you know, a hardcore ladder, you know, deck, he's gonna be in trouble. You know?
Well, we will see how he gets on tomorrow in the semi-finals, but we're going to go to a quick break now before we come back with Don't Stop Me versus Unskiller. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Hearthstone Gfinity Summer Masters.
So, is he going to turn that sheep into a devil sword?
That or a squirrel, it's a 50-50 chance. Oh.
Oh, is he okay?
An ogre stepped on him and he's a squirrel, so no.
Hearthstone, play it free. Rated T.